folks, Mike here from the MJ Amson Furniture Company, and today we have this automotive seat that needs to be repaired. You can see it's pretty well torn here. Also needs some foam repair. Now this particular seat came out of a Chevy truck, and one of the issues that you run into a lot with automotive work is it's very difficult to match the color of the original fabric. It is possible to match the original fabric, but even if you do get the exact same fabric, chances are pretty good the color will be different. Several reasons for that, and one is dye lot. They only dye so many yards of the color, and every time they do a different batch, there is a possibility that the dye lot color will be slightly different. And also, an automotive seat is exposed to a lot of weather, ultraviolet rays in particular, and they do have a tendency to fade the fabric. Also, in a truck seat, as this one is, you get a lot of people with dirty clothes, and that tends to soil the seat, and that can affect its color. So even if you do get the exact same fabric, it's highly unlikely you're going to get an exact color match. In this case, the customer is not interested in an exact color match. He's more interested in just repairing the damage in the upholstery to keep the seat from getting any worse. Obviously, the first order of business in making this type of a repair is to get the seat out of the vehicle. Very often you can run into problems with rusted bolts that tend to break. If you have airbags that have to be unplugged when the seat is removed, you may have to take that vehicle back to a dealer after everything is reassembled, because when you plug the airbag back in, it'll throw a code on the computer, and a dealership or even a mechanic that has the right computer can clear that code for you. Once the seat is out of the vehicle, as it is here, the next thing we have to do is remove the backrest from the seat. On this particular case, the customer has already removed the knobs before he brought the seat to me. So what we have to do is remove this plastic cover. Here. Every seat is a little different. It's really difficult to say exactly how each one comes apart, but there is a lot of information online, especially on YouTube, on how to take these seats apart. If you have any questions, you can refer to YouTube on your year, make, and model of your vehicle, and very often you can find what you're looking for. If you are not able to find how to take the seat apart on your particular vehicle, you just have to take your time, go slow, and watch everything, because some of these fasteners can be pretty well hidden. I got the plastics off this seat, and I'm going to show you how they were held on. You can see right here they had several of these little metal clips, and we just had to pry them out of the hole that they go into very carefully. And they also had these little plastic parts here. And I just clipped in and out of the corresponding holes on the other parts of the plastic right here. Once the plastics have been removed, there's just a couple of bolts on each side, and the backrest will come right off the seat. Once the back has been removed, we can turn our attention to removing the upholstery. In this case, the tracks, or the runners, that move the seat back and forth cannot be removed from the rest of the frame. On a lot of seats, your tracks can be removed, and the whole metal pan here can come off of the tracks, but in this particular case it's all one unit. Once we turn the seat upside down, we can see that there are these plastic tabs that hold the upholstery onto the frame in several places. And what we have to do is pull this upholstery forward and pull it out away from the frame. Once the clips are removed from the frame, we can pull the fabric up and we can take the foam right off of the frame. And the upholstery will come off with the foam. Now this part of the upholstery, this goes right in here. If you flip it over, you can see is held onto the foam in here by some clips. Can't really get in there to see them very well, but there's some plastic clips in here that hold it in. We just need to pop those out. There you can see it. Just a little wire in there with a little plastic clip. This will push back and this plastic wire will just pull out of there. Some seats have Velcro, some seats have what's called hog rings. They're all a little different. Once all those clips have been removed, the upholstery can just be removed from the foam. Once the upholstery has been removed, the damage to the foam is really apparent. First thing we're going to do is fix up this foam here. So the first step in repairing this foam is to cut it out and make it kind of a rectangular shape so I can glue some new foam in this place. Oh, and I'm using just a carving knife for this. An electric carving knife works really well for cutting foam rubber. Once I've got this all squared up, I went and I cut a piece of high density foam. This is a firm foam to match the firmness of the seat foam as close as possible. And I'm going to glue this right in here. And I'm going to be using a special foam adhesive for this. Now I'm going to let that adhesive set up for a few minutes. And then I'm going to take the carving knife and we're going to cut off all the excess. Once we have the foam replaced and carved out to the basic shape, I like to go over that with a layer of muslin. And I use the same foam adhesive. The first thing we have to do to repair the upholstery is we have to remove the upholstery that has been damaged. In this case, there are two pieces that have to be removed. There is the top piece here, as you can see, and then there's a part that goes on the side, and that's sewn in from the front and it runs along the side. So these two pieces have to be removed from the cover. What I'm going to do to remove these is turn this inside out, and I'm going to use a razor blade, and I'm going to carefully cut the thread that holds this seam together. Once I have the affected pieces removed from the seat cover, I have to remove the two pieces from each other, which is a seam that runs right along here. And why I'm taking these apart, I'm going to use these as a pattern to make new pieces. There again, I'm going to just use a razor blade and carefully pull the seam apart and cut the threads with the razor blade as I go. I also have this piece here, which is called a listing wire, that held the seat that held the upholstery to the seat. It's a good idea to mark this. In this case, I can use a Sharpie just because this old cover is not going to be reused again. So I know where my listing will fall when I make my patterns, and I'll know where to sew that back in. So I now have the two pieces separated from each other. Okay, what I've done here is I've taken a couple pieces of black cloth and I've cut them out in rectangles, basically to the size that we need for these pieces. And what I have to do is sew this cloth onto a piece of foam. Once I've got the fabric sewn onto the foam, I can just cut the foam out. This is a special foam though. It's called a sew foam, or some people call it a backed poly foam. And on the back of it, it has like a knit fabric adhered to the foam, and it helps hold the stitches when you sew to it. Once we have the excess foam cut off, we can lay our old piece on that we're going to use as a pattern, and we trace around this. I'm going to be using a piece of white chalk. It's easy to see, and it also comes off the fabric easy. It's very important that we get this pattern traced as exactly as we can to the old one. Now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew along this line here, and then we can cut our piece out. Now that I have this first part cut out, I'm going to do the exact same procedure on our second one here. Once I've gotten this piece all cut out, I also transferred the plastic tabs for holding it on, and this one here also has a piece of Velcro on the back. And the next step is to sew these two pieces together. Now this piece sews on to this one here. Now that I have these two pieces, these repair pieces that we made, sewn together, I can sew them onto the original cover. They'll be sewn on like this. And when I sew those on there, I will re-sew this listing attachment on here. But before I do that, I'm going to mark where it goes. Remember, on the old one, I made the marks so I know exactly where to place it. And it's always good to use a piece of chalk. So you know where to put this, but also the chalk's not going to bleed into the fabric if it should get wet. That's something that you have to always be mindful of, to mark your fabric with something that's not going to bleed through. Now that everything's all sewn back together, it's just a process of reattaching the upholstery onto the foam and putting the foam onto the seat frame and reassembling the seat. Well, there's the finished project. Hope you enjoyed watching, and we'll see you next time.